Hello and welcome. In this video I'm going to complete a series of tasks on ISIS on OcNOS devices. What I'm going to do is to configure mesh group for the devices that are in the backbone. The second thing, I'm going to enable BFT, although BFT might not work in virtual environment, but it should be fine because you need to configure BFT on the links that, specifically on the links that you are not so sure about them. And you want to make sure that in case of failure, you are going to have fast detection. Now, configuring BFT has another benefit over changing the timers of the protocols, specifically on OSPF, for example. When you just change the protocol timers, what you do is you increase the number of hello messages, and this is going to increase the load on the CPU. This means that, the general CPU. What I mean by that is the control plane is going to be overloaded by the number of messages that you are trying to process. And one of the reasons that BFT is good in that is BFT is very lightweight, and it is controlled on the ASIC level. And when you just receive the messages from DFT, they are processed very fast. They give you information, and BFT can be configured for almost every protocol. All protocols support BFT. So bidirectional and forwarding detection is the way to go for most of the things that you want to do, to just make sure that the early detection is going to be done in your network for just mitigating any kind of problems that you are going to encounter. The next one says that configure ISIS to track the BFT and the adjacency changes. That is going to be super simple, as a matter of fact, and I'm going to show you two different ways of that. One of them under router, one of them under the interface. And because it just wants us to configure this between router 2 and 3, then I'm going to go under interface as well. And the last one says that you need to make sure that all the prefixes on L2 domain are going to be configured for fast reroute. This one is super simple, as a matter of fact, just one line of command under router ISIS. Let's take a look at the topology that we have here. The topology is a little bit different from what we have seen in previous videos. I have added some extra links point to point between router 3 and router 2, and there's a switch in between with the broadcast network. So this means that between backbone routers, I can see now two different adjacencies of type L2, because I have configured all of these routers as L2 routers only. And I have two adjacencies because I have two different links to get to the destination. Let's do this. I'm going to go to router 2 first of all, and I'm going to say show CLNS neighbors, and you can see that I have two adjacencies with router 3 over different links, two adjacencies with router 4 on different links, and you can see the MAC addresses of them are different. For example, on router 4, these are the MAC addresses of the other end. Okay, so the first thing which I'm going to do is to configure the mesh group. And here it says configure mesh group 1. Mesh group means that I'm going to control the flooding of LSP, and I don't really want to send them anywhere else. So what I'm trying to do is to configure mesh group under the interfaces. Now the interfaces on router 2 that I'm going to have is 3, 5, and 7. So I can go under them and configure mesh group for that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to go to router 2, configure terminal, interface EAT3, and then I'm going to say ISIS mesh group, and then you can just enter a number. The same thing for 5 and 7 is going to happen here. So mesh group number 1. So I'm going to say commit. For now, if I say do show CLNS neighbor, of course you don't see any change in that because mesh group is not destructive. So let's do the same thing on router 3. On router 3, per my topology, I have 4, 6, 7. So I'm going to configure this under them. Interface EAT4, ISIS mesh group 1, and for 6 and 7 I'm going to do the same thing and commit the configuration. And on router 4 What interfaces do I need to configure? That's going to be 256. So I'm going to say configure terminal interface EAT2 ISIS mesh group 1, and the next one was 5 and 7, 256. So that should be 5 and 6, of course. Then I'm going to commit. Okay, the first task is done. The second task speaks about configuring BFD. I'm going to do this in the last part of my my configuration, but this one, configure fast readout, what I'm trying to do is this one. I'm going to do this right now. So for fast readout, what I'm going to do is to go to router ISIS. So I'm going to say, for now, let me show you the running configure router ISIS. It says that we have configured this. I'm going to say router ISIS OcNOS. And then I'm going to say fast readout. Fast readout is one of the commands under router ISIS, and you can just configure it per prefix or type breaking or TLFA. These are going to be more advanced topics which we are not going to cover in this part of the course, but here it says for all the prefixes of level 2. So I'm going to configure per prefix. Here it says which level are you going to configure it. I'm going to configure it for this one. And then for ISIS family, I'm going to select IPv4. And of course, all the prefixes. So you can do this here, and I'm going to commit the configuration. I'm going to do the same thing on all other routers on backbone. So I'm going to say router ISIS OcNOS, and I'm going to paste this here and commit the configuration. On router 3, the same thing. So router ISIS OcNOS, I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to commit the configuration. Okay, so far I have done 2 of the tasks. So for now, if I just say one more time, because I have just configured fast readout, I'm going to say show CLNS neighbor. I have my neighbor adjacencies intact. And if I just want to be more specific about the neighbors, I can just go with some other commands. So let me just say show CLNS neighbor, and here we have detail, and after that I can just modify everything. So let's see what we have in our adjacencies for now. It says that the adjacency ID is this, and the protocol started for IPv4, and this is advertised. This is for R7, and we don't have much more information about other things that we have configured here. That's okay. I'm going to say show ISIS interfaces as well. And on router 2, as a matter of fact, we configured 3, 5, and 7. Let's just check Ethernet 3 here. It says that the routing protocol is OcNOS, circuit type is L1, L2, and there is no BFD for now configured. If we had configured this, we could have seen it right here. But some other information that might be of interest is going to be the circuit type, the network type, and some, let's say, for example, hello and metrics here. So let's do BFD right now. For BFD, like I said, there are multiple ways to configure that. You can just go under ISIS and just say BFD. Under router ISIS and just say BFD, and that's going to configure BFD for you. Or you can go under the interface and configure BFD. So let's just see that. If I just go to router ISIS OcNOS, I have this BFD, and after that I can say all interfaces and then hit enter. That's going to configure BFD for me for all the interfaces. But let's say that I'm going to configure it between router 2 and 3 per request. So between router 2 and 3, we have Ethernet 7. And of course, this is this broadcast network, but I'm just interested in this Ethernet 7. So what I'm trying to do is to say interface EAT 7. And I'm going to say ISIS BFD, and that's it. You can just disable it, or you can just hit enter, which is going to be enabled. And if I say BFD, after that I can just change some of the timers. By default, it's going to be set to 250 milliseconds for every hello message, and of course that's going to set the multiplier to 3. Let's say that I'm going to change it to something else. And you should know that the timers should not be the same on both sides. Each side can configure its own timer. So I'm going to say BFD interval. And here we have min Rx, which is going to be something like 300 millisecond. Min Rx is here, and that's going to be 300 millisecond. So, and a multiplier I'm going to set to 3, and that's it. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, on Ethernet 7 of the other side. So I'm going to say commit, and that is what I have just configured on Ethernet 7. So if I just say do show running configuration of Ethernet 7, these are the commands that I'm going to configure on the other side. So I go to router 3, configure terminal, interface ETH7. Did I commit it on router 2 side? Yes, I did. So I'm going to paste these two commands here, and I'm going to say commit. And if I just say show run interface ETH7, you can see these two commands here. Now, if I say to show CLNS neighbor, you can see that adjacency is gone between router 2 and 3. Yes, we have this 2 adjacencies. Okay, so everything is working just fine. If I say to show BFD session and hit enter, you can see that the BFD session is working just fine. I have just configured BFD session between these two. And in case there is a problem, BFD is going to detect it as fast as possible, and everything is going to be mitigated by the, let's say, fast reroute, for example, that we have just configured. So the tasks are done and the verification is done. I hope this has been informative for you, and see you in next video.